Most men think the only way to save their struggling marriage is to sit their wife down and talk everything through so that she understands how things will get better. But the truth is, the relationship is rebuilt through experiences, not explanations. The issue right now is probably not that you're not communicating enough, it's that nothing she feels around you is actually changing. So in today's episode, I want to get into answering the question, can you save your marriage without talking about it? By opening your eyes to why just trying to talk things through actually does more harm than good, and give you 3 core ways you can change how she experiences you in your relationship, which does more to save your marriage than thousands of words ever could. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive because we are constantly bombarded with help from so many different avenues that all tell us the same thing. Communication is healthy. Healthy couples talk things through, and you fix problems by being open and honest. And the reality is, yes, in a solid relationship, those things are absolutely true. But when you're in a situation where your relationship is teetering and your wife is emotionally checked out or overwhelmed, talking more does not help make things right. In fact, it actually exposes the underlying problem that nothing is improving underneath in terms of how you are showing up and your leadership of the relationship. So while you have the good intention of following that widely stated advice of communicating to fix the problems, what actually happens is you end up sitting there getting together all your best thoughts and arguments to explain to her why your point of view makes sense for the future of the relationship. If you can get her on the same page as you, it's gonna turn things around. But the reality is she already understands and knows that you care. She knows that you're trying, and the sudden emphasis to try and fix things is all for the sake of the future. You have to see that the reason it doesn't work is because that is not the actual gap. The true gap you have to close is that she doesn't feel different around you. She isn't feeling more relaxed around you or safe around you, and she's not feeling more drawn into you attraction-wise. So that is the gap you actually have to close. Being able to make her feel different in your presence, and you just can't do that by just talking things through. A good analogy for trying to fix your marriage by just talking about it right now is to think of it like being in a freezing cold room. You're trying to warm up that room by describing what heat feels like. You can use all the right words, you can explain it perfectly, but until the temperature actually changes, the room's still gonna be freezing. That's exactly where most relationships get stuck and never get fixed. I wanna mention something that is very interesting and does catch a lot of men by surprise. Because we hear so often how it's all about communication, it's a bit of a shock to understand that it's not just the more talking, it's not just that the more talking doesn't work when she's at this stage of emotional disconnection, it's that it actually starts working against you pretty heavily. I talk a lot about how it adds pressure to her emotionally when she's having her own problems, trying to process everything she's feeling, and that is most definitely true, but it's not just about that. It's also about what the constant attempts at these conversations to repair represent. Every time you get her to sit down with you and, talk about the relationship and go through the laundry list of things you believe she's unhappy with, all you're really doing is reminding her that these things are still broken and nothing has actually changed yet. So instead of creating progress, which is your ultimate goal, you're really just reinforcing all the things you believe are causing everything to feel stuck. That's not enjoyable for her when she's trying to process her own feelings and having that more emotional weight added to those. You want her to start associating being around you with good things again, like positive things. Instead, she's going to associate you with emotional weight, not the safety and ease that she should. It is incredibly counterproductive to rebuilding your connection. When you step back and look at this perspective, you can completely see how what I said at the start of the video, how relationships and connection are built through how she experiences you and not continuous explanations to her. Attraction, connection, emotional safety, all of these have absolutely nothing to do with what you say. And I don't want to sound like all woo-woo and mystical. And for such a long time, I was the stubborn guy who brushed off things like this. But truth be told, attraction and connection come from the energy you transmit. They come from how you show up and carry yourself. Confidence is considered the top attraction trait in men. And emotional safety has everything to do with your stability emotionally and how much you make her feel heard. That is why you could have all these conversations, you could say all the right things, but you still feel the exact same to her if your energy is poor and fearful and you're not making her emotions feel validated. I said I was going to give you 3 core changes to make so that she can experience you in a different way. So here they are. The first core change you need to make in terms of her experience you is creating emotional predictability. Right now, if things feel tense, she's probably bracing herself around you more than you realize because her experience with you over and over again has been one where it just doesn't seem like you get it. If you've heard the words, "I just don't feel like I can talk to you," or "I can't talk to you," you're not alone because those used to be a staple in my direction. She's wondering if things are going to turn into a conversation and if you're going to bring up something again. That is doing harm. But if you can become more emotionally steady and have a calm, positive leading presence around her, and you're not turning every interaction into an agenda, she's going to experience you differently. Which leads nicely into number 2, pressure removal. You have to stop making her responsible for you. Even if you're not directly saying it to her in these conversations you're forcing with her, there's an underlying energy of you needing reassurance that things are going to be okay. And this puts her into a position where she becomes responsible for your emotional state. And because you haven't been getting the clarity you need in any conversations you've had with her about trying to fix things, she has felt your fearful emotions play out over and over again. That becomes so exhausting to her and is one of the fastest ways to push her further away to check out for good. When you start to take the pressure off her by taking responsibility for your own emotional presence and being grounded enough not to need anything from her in every moment because you have these fears of losing her, that's when the space opens up. When you create this space, it is so important because it's what allows her to process her emotions and give her the opportunity to lean back into you again. The third core change is really a byproduct of being able to apply the first 2 consistently, and this is when she feels the behavioral shift and experiences a different you once she starts leaning back into you again. Again, it does not have to be these big dramatic changes. What you're aiming to do is change your identity so that you show her different patterns than she's used to from you. Because all the old patterns of reacting to her in conversations, over-explaining, and trying to pull clarity on where everything stands from her, those all contribute to building up this emotional disconnect and confirmation bias against you. When you start presenting a new pattern of a more grounded presence and ease in how much you respond and how much you move around her, this is the new version of you that you want her to experience on a consistent basis. She doesn't need to hear about it, or you don't have to tell her how great it will be when you do it and promise that you're gonna do it. She needs to really experience it. That's what creates real change. I've had some interesting coaching conversations with a few of my clients who have flat out said how different and wrong it feels to be taking this approach. And to their point, it can feel like you're doing less and that you're not fighting for the relationship, which are kind of like the talking points you hear when you're getting, well-meaning advice, but misinformed from family and friends. But I'm telling you, less is more has never been more true than when it comes to trying to manage your wife's emotions when she's experiencing emotional disconnect from you. The more effort should be focused on leveling yourself up as a leader and all your skills there. By taking this counterintuitive approach and focusing on presenting a new experience with you in the relationship, rather than just beating a dead horse of trying to convince her through conversation after conversation, you're removing the very things that have been pushing her away. This new emotional environment you're creating is exactly what allows her to feel differently about you. Chip away at that confirmation bias she has built up for you and allow space for reconnection to happen. Because most men, when they're in this situation, when they're trying to fight for the relationship, actually end up just fighting inside the relationship. That is not going to be a way forward for you. Now, I just want to touch on one more thing before we go ahead and wrap this video up. The purpose of this video is not to say that communication is not important and that you should just go silent and avoid things. Communication remains top of the list in terms of importance as part of having a healthy relationship. But in a situation where things are getting dire in your marriage and your wife is pulling away or checking out emotionally, you cannot use conversation as a tool to force reconnection or talking her into feeling something that you want her to feel. The only thing that works is recognizing where you have not been showing up as a leader and creating an environment where her feelings for you can come back naturally because of the work you've put in to change how you show up. So if you're in a place right now where things feel uncertain and it feels like she's pulling away to the point where losing her is a real possibility, you have to fight the instinct of talking more and pushing her for clarity and start making those changes I'm talking about where she's going to experience you differently. Now, if this hits for you, if this made you realize that you've been trying to fix things that way, then the next step is understanding how to make this shift fully, because this is just one piece of a much bigger framework. So I'm going to invite you inside my free Relationship Rebuild Masterclass. In there, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to rebuild emotional safety, how to shift the relationship dynamic, and how to start creating that pullback from her. So if you're serious about turning everything around, go watch that free masterclass today. The link is in the description and pinned comment below. If you appreciate me making this type of content, go ahead and gently tap the like button and subscribe to the channel as well. I'll see you in the next episode.